Okay, everyone. Okay, so last week we talked about conversion, okay? And I thought we would about circumcision. And because it's a Rosh Hashanah soon, so here's a Rosh Hashanah card from the beginning of the 20th century. It says Shana Tova Tikatevu, wishing everyone, a good Shana. And with a photo of the new baby, Isidore gets his first 10% cut. Okay, if you enjoy that kind of humor. No, huh? But I thought it's like...
As long as it's only 10%.
Right. Okay, so we're done with circumcision here, and Larry should watch this as well.
Good thing.
Yeah. Is that why you're late?
I thought I was going to be the
Here.
prime example or something.
Yeah, but look at the Rosh Hashanah card.
Oh my goodness.
Isidore gets his first 10% cut. Yeah.
You know what's on the back of some of the cards of rabbis that do circumcision?
Uh-huh.
In quotes, it won't be long now.
Yeah. Okay. Funny.
I heard the British monarchy, when a boy is born, they invite a mohel to do the circumcision.
I heard that too.
I heard that too.
Well, that makes it true.
Yeah.
I have no clue why they would do that, but that's okay.
Experience.
Yeah. Today we're going to talk about the bar and bat mitzvah, and hopefully also get to conversion. Okay. And we're also recording. Okay. So perhaps the most significant rite of passage for a Jewish young person, okay, after obviously their circumstance, is the moment he or she, and this is also true for women, becomes legally, oh, hi, welcome to our class. He or she becomes legally responsible for the performance of the commandments, popularly referred to as the day he or she becomes a bar or bat mitzvah. Okay, so in Hebrew, bar is, it's not in Hebrew, it's actually in Aramaic. Okay, and bar means son, and bat is in Hebrew, and it means girl, and mitzvah means one commandment, but it's not just one commandment, it's all the commandments that child assumes at that age. Okay, the key point is that the bar or bat mitzvah is not by its nature a transformational experience. Okay, but it means like boys become responsible to perform mitzvot when they turn 13, and girls when they turn 12. Okay. And it happens whether they are formally called to the Torah to mark that transition to adult responsibility, or whether they don't. Okay, so regardless of the big party the parents create, you still become a bar or bat mitzvah when you reach that age, even if you didn't have a party, even if you didn't have a bar or bat mitzvah aliyah and ceremony in the synagogue.
Is that why synagogues don't worry so much about scheduling the bar and bat mitzvah around the
We'll get to that. That's a different issue. We'll get to that in a minute. The ages themselves, 13 for boys and 12 for girls, were chosen as approximations. Okay, these are not like exact numbers. Ideally, the transition should take place at puberty. Okay, the ancient rabbis, which means there are different ways to prove that someone has reached puberty. And the minute they do that, let's say if it's 11 or 14, they would be obliged only then by the mitzvot. Okay, but the rabbis figured out that we shouldn't go and start checking every child, every girl, and every boy for signs of puberty. So they made like a an overall estimate that for girls who mature earlier, it will be around 12, and for boys, it will be around 13. Not to mention that usually you would also get married around the time you had puberty. So, that's how it was in ancient times. Not just in ancient times, like we know even, I have some friends that are, their origin is from Yemen, and they tell me that their grandmother was married when she was like 12 years old, 13, 14, like the latest, and
Was that
And that's-
arranged?
Well, they died at 30 or whatever.
it's an arrangement, sometimes to someone, no, not always to someone older, usually to another kid the same age, who wouldn't know much about what it means to be married either. So they would both like be stuck in this together. Yeah, trying to figure it out. Yeah. So but the rabbis, as I said, were savvy enough to know that the best way to do is have like a fix an age that seemed reasonably accurate and leave it at that. And that's why it came 12 and 13. And thus, there are the words of the Rabbi Judah ben Tama in Pirkei Avot, and he says, at age 13 comes responsibility for the mitzvot. Okay, so we already have that in the tradition. And in our day, the actual question of whether a child has attained puberty is considered irrelevant, and the age of majority is deemed fixed at the ages of 12 and 13, whatever milestone the child may or may not have reached in their physical development, right? And that's also where we see some things that sometimes we smile at, that the voice starts changing, right? You might have had that with your children, like suddenly you grow many, many inches tall. Girls obviously are more mature, and that shows up, and that all happens around that age of bar and bat mitzvah. And
it happens when you're teaching them for their bar mitzvah, their voices
change as well, right? The concept of making a formal celebration for a child who becomes a bar mitzvah is first mentioned in the 13th century by a German rabbi called Mordechai ben Hillel. The early version of the ceremony, which notice, it means that up until then, there was no bar mitzvah ceremony or bat mitzvah ceremony. And even since then, it hasn't been very popular. They only started in the late 19th century. During the 19th century, that became more popular. And actually, it was something that became more popular among Reform communities in Germany. They're the ones that picked up on the whole ceremony and made it something very significant, as sort of like to deal with the other ceremonies that were going on in the world around them, confirmation and things like that. So they wanted a ceremony for Jewish children as well, but they had confirmation when you're 16, but they also started celebrating the bar and bat mitzvah more seriously. So the early version of the ceremony consisted simply of a boy receiving his first aliyah to the Torah on Shabbat, being called up as a maftir, and thus invited to chant the Haftorah in public for the first time. Okay, so we're familiar, right, with the maftir, which is like the last part of the Torah reading, and the Haftorah are the verses from the prophets. So children learn that, and that's basically what they've always learned. And that was it. That was the ceremony. After the service, there would be a celebratory feast, in the course of which the boy would deliver some sort of a sermon, okay, where he would talk about his Torah portion and would sort of like, make it relevant for other people. And if it was like on a weekday, the boy would put on his tefillin for the first time, and recite the blessings as a bar mitzvah. Okay, so in Israel, I don't know if here we do that kids put on tefillin. I haven't encountered that in the last year or so, but in Israel, going to the Kotel, to the Wailing Wall, the Western Wall, and putting on tefillin there is something very popular among Israelis as the first time year bar mitzvah.
One of the things
Now,
that we
yeah.
have done, maybe Steve remembers, on the men's club. The felon day are usually first week in February.
Yeah.
Super Bowl Sunday.
Yes.
Yeah, we've had.
It's called Worldwide Wrap.
Yeah, Worldwide Wrap, there you go.
Oh, nice.
And so we have had
Yeah.
kids come in and show them.
Okay. Oh, we should do that again. Yeah. Okay.
I'll talk to you about it.
Yeah, that's nice. I like that. So now it's very interesting. I had someone in my office this week, and he's from a Yemen origin as well. And the Yemens have another interesting custom, which is their children start reading from the Torah at the age of 6 or 7. Okay, the minute the boy knows how to read the Hebrew and chant the Torah, they let him read from the Torah and also say the blessings. Okay, so they don't have a bar bat mitzvah like we do. So every ethnicity in Judaism has like different customs. Okay, why are you shocked?
Reading from the Torah at age 6? I
Yeah.
was like, wow, that'd be so cute.
It is very cute, and they're excellent readers.
You're trying to say that you can't even read English at age 6.
They're very excellent readers because they put them in a school where they study, all day, and they study very well how to read the Torah and the Haftorah and all that, and that's pretty amazing. And they have,
That's the benefit of living in completely separate communities.
yeah,
Then you have your own customs, and then you come to Israel and you bring it all with you.
yeah.
So
And then sometimes what happens is kind of like blend in with other customs. Sometimes they're able to maintain them. Sometimes they're not able to maintain them. We kind of like lose those customs. So yeah. So today, well, or they just get adjusted. It's like that's sort of like how it goes, right? The melting pot of the Israeli society. I think also here in America, it's like a lot of people lost their customs when they arrived here because that social power is like so strong. I want to be like everyone else. Yeah, you lose your language, you lose customs. Yiddish. Oh yeah, that's a good example. Yeah. Everyone with their ethnicity and religion.
Some of the Jewish day schools too, because I think it was second grade where my 2 grandsons went to Jewish day school, and they read from Torah.
Oh.
And it was a celebration in second grade.
Yeah,
And
yeah. You
each
could
child
definitely
went
do
up
that.
in
Yeah,
a
and that's
language.
encouraged as well to do
impressive.
that. Yeah. So now we talked about boys, but girls did not start having a bat mitzvah until the 20th century. Okay, and the concept of celebrating a girl bat mitzvah really consisted mostly of the girl delivering some remarks in front of the congregation, either on a weekday or a Friday evening, okay, followed by a celebratory meal, but without being called up to the Torah. The first formal bat mitzvah ceremony is said to have taken place in New York in 1922. Why is this so important? Because it's the daughter of Rabbi Mordechai Kaplan, okay, who's the founder of Reconstructionist Judaism and a great scholar in the conservative movement as well for many years. And she was called forward to read from the Torah at the Society for the Advancement of Judaism. And that was her father's congregation. And she was 12 years old. Okay. Now, there's also interesting evidence that in Italian communities in the 16th, 17th, 18th, 19th century, girls were always called to on Shavuot, on the holiday of Shavuos, they were called to the synagogue, and they would all dress white, and they would have like you know, how do you call it, like yeah, like floral garland, and they would like sing hymns, you know, from Psalms. They would maybe make remarks on the Torah or something like that. So that is also giving some room for girls to do that in more ancient times, which is interesting, right? Now every conservative congregation features a bat mitzvah ceremony, and which the girls are welcome to adulthood just like the men. And to facilitate the education of children by having them prepare for their bar and bat mitzvah services together, it has become exceedingly common for girls to have their bat mitzvah at the age of 13. Okay, and this is a very American custom, which is not. I have never seen it in other places around the world, where girls who were originally supposed to have their bat mitzvah when they are 12 have it when they're 13, because there's like a whole class of children that are learning for their bar mitzvah, so the girls are at the same class. So if, like in Israel, for example, girls already know when you're in 6th grade, that's where you do your bat mitzvah, and boys do it when they're in 7th grade. So they don't do it together. They have like separate groups. Yeah. But in America, they all study together in the Hebrew school, and that's why they have.
Yeah, I grew up like that. All the boys and the girls got same time.
Does the Orthodox,
That's interesting.
does the Orthodox community look upon this as positive, or?
The Orthodox community does it when the girls are at 12 and boys at 13. They don't go by that custom. Yeah. So it makes it easier because they're not called to the Torah, right? Girls are not called to the Torah, and maybe they would have like some kind of like a party where the girl would give like a sermon. Okay. And at the synagogue, her father will have an aliyah in her honor. Okay. So she doesn't even get to be near the Torah.
Why don't they allow? Well, there's nothing halachically required, is there?
Why aren't they what?
Why don't they allow them to read from the Torah, for example?
In the Orthodox world, that's because they have a mechitza, and women are up in the gallery, so they don't even come down to read from the Torah. You've been to an Orthodox synagogue? Yeah. So how would a woman even get to the Torah?
No, you can't.
The men would have to leave.
Yeah, that would not happen in the Orthodox world. They would not let women, approach the Torah in that way. There are new customs now which are very interesting, which is called women minyanim, like a minyan of women, where there would be only women. They would get a Torah, and they would have it won't be the main sanctuary. They go maybe to the social hall or to a smaller room, or the Beit Midrash of the synagogue, and they would have a ceremony there just for the women. And I've even attended one of these, although I'm not a woman. And the reason is they had a mechitza for the men. So they had like a small part for the men. We were all we were behind it. We were not allowed to be in the women's section, which had the Torah. So we felt what it feels like for the women behind. And I was like there sitting next to the father of the girl, and he was like, he was like throwing the candy behind the mechitza. That's all he was allowed to do. So I thought that was like very funny in that regard, because I'm not used to that, but it was like really funny.
That's cute.
Yeah. So now there are also newer Orthodox versions, which you could call them like neo-Orthodox, where they still have a mechitza, but it's not that the women are up in the gallery. It's like women are on one side and men are on the other side. And their very liberal version of that is like there's even the Torah reading tables in the middle. And women come up from the women's section and read, and men come from the men's section and read. So they're more egalitarian Orthodox in that sense. And I've seen girls have a bat mitzvah there as well.
So, I was going to Chabad for a couple of years just to see what it was like. And when Ronnie and I went to services, everybody was on the same floor, but they had a curtain.
Uh-huh.
So
Okay.
she said right next to one side of the curtain, I was on the other side.
Right. Those are the prime seats, right? Because
Right.
not everyone can do that. You have to go and grab those seats. Yeah.
So, so the Torah is here, but the women are like here. So, you really have no view almost.
Yeah.
So it doesn't add to scholarly, you're not real interested because you can't figure out what's going on.
Yeah. And when you're up in the gallery, you don't hear, all you do is throw candies and
Well, I only had one experience up there.
Uh-huh.
It's the most fun I've ever had. in synagogue.
oh, okay. Because you could talk the whole time. You could talk and talk and talk, right?
See,
And every once in a while the men would like shh. No? Like,
curtain, and it was just so much fun up there.
there you go.
I do both.
There you go. And a lot of girls come to spot their shidduch, from up above. I was like, oh, this guy looks interesting, yeah.
When I was growing up at Orthodox congregations, the cantor of Shliach Tzibur would be in the middle. Do Orthodox still do that?
Yes, for Torah reading for sure, it's in the middle, and sometimes they have the cantor all the way up at the beginning. Depends on there are different versions.
Yeah, the ones I were
Yeah.
at, they were, kind of in the middle. And when the Torah
Yeah.
service came about, then they would go up. But
When we will talk about the formation of the three streams in Judaism, which is Orthodox, Conservative, and Reform, we will talk about the issue of where you would pray from as one of the big parts that they had a dispute about. Where are you allowed to pray from? An interesting question arises in communities in which the bat mitzvah ceremony is routinely deferred until age 13. And that question is, may a girl over the age of 12 who has not formally had her bat mitzvah, but could she be counted to the minyan, right? If we have now 8 people in a synagogue, and we're egalitarian, right? We count women in our synagogue. So if we had 4 women and 4 men, and they're all Jewish, and we had 2 girls there that are 12 and a half, can we count them for the minyan? Well, you cannot count someone before they were bar mitzvahed, which, okay.
when they're 12.
Right. So I would say, yes, you could do that. Some communities say, no, you have to add your aliyah. Okay. So, but the overall common sense is, by the way, if it was a boy, so you could not count them. Okay. But a girl over the age of 12 should be considered to have attained her maturity. And even if the celebration will only take later when she's 13, she could be counted to the minyan.
If you only have 9 people there and you need the 10, can't you count the Torah as one?
Some people say you could open the ark
Yeah.
and take out the Torah,
Uh-huh.
and you have a child holding the Torah, and that makes like a 10th
Okay.
person. There's some rulings that are very interesting in that. Good
Yeah,
for
I've heard
remembering
one
that.
before. I've heard
Yeah.
that one.
Yeah,
Pretty heavy for a 10-year-old.
they sit down. Yeah, they don't have to.
Well, they can give them, our small Torah there is
Oh.
pretty wide.
Yeah.
The one I.
I've never figured out how
Okay.
the scribe wrote that Torah.
During the ceremony, traditionally the parents of the bar or bat mitzvah come forward to in front of the whole community, and they thank God for releasing them from the burden of responsibility for their child's subsequent actions.
So that's why
Okay,
it's built in.
because the traditional formulation is Baruch sheptarani me'onsho shel zeh. Blessed be God who has released me from having to bear any punishment for this child's action. And for girls, you'd say Mon Shashazen. Now, what's the concept behind here is like until the child has become bar or bat mitzvah, it's the parents' responsibility for every of their sins, etc. Someone needs to be accountable. So in Judaism, it's the parents until they become bar bat mitzvah, and then it becomes their responsibility. Okay, so that's like why we see sometimes parents come up and say that. Some conservative communities have eliminated that because they feel, well, I say that, but the child still stays home and I still pay their bills and I have to drive them to school and they have no responsibility when they're 12 or 13.
Yeah, just wait a year and they're teenagers and that will change.
Right. So some communities have eliminated that. And some communities have changed the language a little bit and say, release me from having the spiritual responsibility. Okay, so the kid is still, underage minor, of course, and until they're 18, obviously I think the parents are really responsible for what they do. But in terms of like the Jewish parts of the tradition, it's their responsibility from the age of 13. Okay. The modern bar bat mitzvah takes place as soon as possible after a child's 12th or 13th birthday, according to the Jewish calendar, so that the child can be called forward to the Torah. And it's normative to schedule a child's bar or bat mitzvah when the Torah is read aloud in public on a Saturday morning or an afternoon. But as I said before, you could also do it on other days that the Torah is read, which is Monday or Thursday or Rosh Chodesh, or sometimes on Chanukah or Purim, any Jewish holiday that you read the Torah. And that will be part of the synagogue service. Some people also have private services. I don't know if anyone's ever attended like a private bar mitzvah ceremony that children, people say, it's too much pressure for my child, or I want to do something else. I don't want to, do it with the rabbi of the synagogue. I want to do it in my home. So people do that as well. And this brings up the question that Larry asked before, do you have to do it on that specific date? Okay. Now, each and every one of us has a Hebrew date that we were born on. Okay. So if I'm born December 19th, 1970, okay, so my Hebrew date that I was born of is the 21st day of Kislev, okay, the year 5,000, I forget something, creation of the world, okay, I'd have to calculate that. And yeah, that's why you have the Luach, cell phones, exactly. A Luach is a calendar, the Jewish calendar, okay, and or my daughter that was born on the 26th of December, okay, and that's the 25th day of Kislev, which is the first night of Hanukkah, okay, so it's a very clear Jewish date, and we celebrate her birthday on her Hebrew date because it's always beautiful to celebrate her birthday when it's Hanukkah. Now, 13 years later, or for girls, 12 years later, that same Torah portion that you were born on could be the Torah portion that you have an Aliyah when you become 12 or 13, okay? But now the problem comes like, what do you do with girls that you teach, they only are bat mitzvah when they're 13, okay? It doesn't always, work out that way. And also maybe a lot of kids are born on a certain date and they want to have that. And can we postpone the bar or bat mitzvah to a later date, or can we do it on an earlier date? Okay. So what would you say if it was a girl that wanted to do an earlier date? Okay. Instead of 13, she want to do it when she's 12 and a half. We would say, of course. Okay. That's okay. What would you do with boys? Okay. With boys, you're not supposed to do the bar mitzvah earlier. However, a lot of rabbis, including myself, say that it is just a date in the sense that if you're mature enough and you know how to read from the Torah and you're already 12 and a half, or maybe 12 and 9 months, and you're just 2-3 months away from your original 13 date, it's not like a deadline, okay? Because we go back to that principle that we said before, it's about being mature, okay? So if the child is mature enough and is able to read from the Torah, okay, we're not going to check their, puberty signs, okay? But we're just going to make sure that they are able to perform well. And that goes back to what I told you about the Yemenites, right? They do it when they're 6 years old, okay? So it's okay for a child after the age of 12 to also do that ceremony as well. We try not to do it because, we want to have a system and we want everyone to go through sort of like the same standards. But every once in a while, I get a question, Rabbi, could we celebrate it like a week or 2 or 3 before? And I always say it's possible, obviously after, finding out who the child is and if they're capable of doing that. Now comes the second question of what happens if it's after the date. Can you do it after the date? Okay, so although, again, it could be preferred to do it on the actual date that you were born, okay, because that would be the nicest thing to do. It's okay to postpone as well the bar or bat mitzvah ceremony, okay, as long as you understand that the child is already responsible for, maintaining the mitzvahs themselves. They could do the ceremony of reading the Torah, giving a sermon. They could do that at a later date than just their birthday. So these are like questions I get asked all the time, and I always reassure parents that it's okay to do it later. I just had a child this Monday that came to my office, and the mother really wanted it to have it in November. And we said, yeah, but he's not ready. He didn't even start learning. Okay.
Just recently came?
Yeah. They're not members of the synagogue. They're not members of the synagogue. And that's going to be, so she's going to think about it because she said she really wants to do it on the date. I said, you can't do it here. And they might do a private ceremony at their home and hire a rabbi for somewhere else, which is okay. Okay,
Right. I've tutored kids.
Yeah.
He can't do it here because he's not competent to do it.
Right, although it's his birthday, that's when he's going to be 13.
But he
if
can't
hasn't
learn
done
in
his study,
3
he's
months.
not ready.
Right.
He'll look foolish.
Exactly.
Well, wait a minute.
Yeah,
when
he's
you
not
say-
ready.
When you say it's on his birthday, but not every birthday is gonna be a day in which you read Torah.
Right, that's true. So that's the ultimate proof that it doesn't have to be on the same date. And sometimes the birthday happens on a Sunday, so you would do it like a Shabbat would be like 6 days later, right? So,
So it's
sometimes there's an issue. What happens if you're born on a Shabbat? Like myself. Okay, I was born on Shabbat. And so I have my Torah portion is like the week later because that was Hanukkah. That's how my parents did it. Yeah, so there are different ways of doing it. In recent decades, the concept of an adult bar or bat mitzvah also came into place and was introduced in many congregations. Most of the time, the adults involved are women, okay, who grew up in congregations that they did not permit or endorse bat mitzvah celebrations for girls. Any women here that were not introduced to having a bat mitzvah? Okay, I see a few hands.
We have had.
Okay.
At least a couple of times, an all women.
Like a bat mitzvah.
Class,
Adult.
adult.
Beautiful.
My wife was one.
Beautiful. That's really beautiful. Okay. I'm sure that was probably very meaningful to do that.
Oh, it was.
Yeah. So that's, that's like affirmative action in a way.
The positive sense.
Positive sense, yeah. Other adult participants might be men or women whose families were sufficiently estranged from Jewish rituals when they were children. If they grew up in the Soviet Union. I've had a few men who were in their, late 60s, 70s coming and saying, I want to have a bar mitzvah. I never had one because I grew up in Soviet Union and that was not the custom. at all. I even did a bar mitzvah ceremony for a Holocaust survivor who never had, he was 13 years old. Wow. Wow. That is so powerful. That's beautiful. So these ceremonies could be extremely meaningful and should also be part of like a course where you study. You don't just come and do the celebration. You go through like a training course and get the practical skills necessary. What else interesting could we say about the bar mitzvah? To underscore the spiritual significance of bar or bat mitzvah, many congregations developed a concept of a mitzvah project or a tikkun olam project, that boys and girls must fulfill a requirement of becoming a bar or bat mitzvah in that synagogue. We have that here at Ner Tamid as well. Every child that sits in my office, I talk to them about the expected volunteerism time that they have during the year of their bar or bat mitzvah, and we follow up on that. And we actually even ask them to include it in their sermon. So every child talks about their tikkun olam project, and that makes it even more stronger commitment, because if they have to talk about it, they also have to do it. So and most kids are really, really very good about it, which is nice. So kids do different interesting parties, and I'm sorry, I mean kids do different interesting projects, and I always tell children it could be something helping the local community, the homeless, the ones the poor, with food pantries. Some of them want to do it with animals, which is really beautiful. Some of them do it with music. I've had some kids that went to homes of seniors and play music, etc. We actually might come to Canterbury. I might come before Rosh Hashanah with one of the girls. She wants to do that, and she's going to play. So that's going to be nice. And then obviously there is the issue of the party. Okay. And people come to me, and say, it's like, we're spending so much money on the parties. What could we do? I always tell to parents, don't do the party, take them to Israel. Okay. Take them to Israel. And a lot of people do that. Okay. A lot of people, like they do both, which, doesn't help on the financial aspect, but a trip to Israel could sometimes be more meaningful for the child, and something they'll never forget. And sometimes the grandparents have to pay for it, so they come along as well. And it's like a beautiful family celebration. And when I was working in Israel, so I would meet these families in the conservative part of the Western Wall, which is egalitarian, and I would do ceremonies for these families where women and men could stand together, and the girl could read from the Torah. So these were very meaningful ceremonies that we did. The last part that I want to talk about, bar mitzvah, is a second bar mitzvah or bat mitzvah, okay, at the age of 83. It says here in this book, although very few women in their 80s, if any, will have had bat mitzvahs as girls, there's no reason why an analogous ceremony of recommitment to Jewish values should not also be developed for female members of the congregation. So, I think Marilyn Lando is going to have her second bat mitzvah, I think when, somewhere next year. So that's like very exciting. The origin of this customs, why the age of 83? How did we get to that? Okay. So the origin of this custom rests in the biblical conviction that the normal lifespan of a human being is 70 years old. Okay. And then you pass away. And that was even rare. Most people would pass away in the times of the Bible when they were like 50, 60 was rare, and 70 is like you're dead. Like, it's like it's like a medical miracle if someone would, would live that long.
I think some of
And
that's,
therefore, what?
I think some of that's a little misleading. Up until modern times, we have so much infant mortality and infectious diseases, but if they survived all of that,
Yeah.
there were older people around, maybe fewer of them, but.
I know, but they didn't have birth certificates. I think what scientists say is like 70 was like,
The body, which is
yeah, body. And there weren't doctors to sort of like, maintain you in that sense. Women died much younger. Women died in their 40s, 50s, after all the babies they've had, etc. For sure. So because at the age of 70, you're usually, pass away. As a result, it became the thought that each subsequent year that you're alive is a special gift, and you're like reborn again. So if you're reborn again when you are 83, okay, so now you should celebrate that with a bar mitzvah. That's a more modern thought, okay? It's not very common, but it's more and more common, especially in American communities. And my dad just had his ceremony last year. It was really beautiful. And there's no particular halacha. You don't have to do it, but it's like a wonderful opportunity to celebrate one individual's long, rich, and blessed life with family and friends. So, I do recommend doing that as well. We had a board meeting yesterday where people asked, how come there's a new Jews structure in the synagogue where you have to pay until you're 83? Okay.
Is it free after 83?
I don't know if it's
No,
free,
there's a
but it's
discount.
like there's a discount. Okay.
Seniors were 65 and now seniors are 83.
Yeah. So a lot of people were like asking, how did we get to that,
Oh, yeah.
thing? So this is the origin. Well, obviously the origin of this is, the finances of the synagogue and the fact that the synagogue needs to, make more money in membership. That's a side issue. You could talk to the board about that. But from the point of view of Jewish custom, it is because of the adult bar or bat mitzvah when you become 83. So in that sense, if you make it to 83, you get a bonus of, you want to hang in there so you could pay less to the community.
I just learned something the other day that I didn't know. We have the number 18 and we give
Right, hi.
high and give gifts to whatever in multiples of 18.
Uh-huh.
But I heard recently that the Sephardic or the Persians, they have another different number, 26. It means something special to them.
Oh, 26 is 26 is the name of God. Yud Hey Vav Hey. So Yud is 10.
Yeah.
Okay. Vav is 6. So that's 16. And then you have two Heys. A Hey in the middle and a Hey at the end. So that would be, and Hey is 5. So that's 5 and 5. So 5, 5, 6, and 10 is 26. So a lot of people have that as well. Yeah. It's better math, right? It's better to take 26 than 18. That's the Jewish mind.
26 is
Yeah.
genius.
Right. Yeah. Well, also, yeah, so that's interesting. Okay, so that really concludes the bar and bat mitzvah. Okay. I want to start now. Okay, we can conclude here today. And next week we will start with the conversion. So we